I oversee pretty much the technology implementation, technology planning for the 149 elementary schools and 20 high schools here. I first saw CPS at a conference in Dallas 2 years ago and was pretty impressed with what it could do and the ease of its operation and its kind of low-tech approach to technology integration. And it's been about a year now that we've been involved with CPS. I don't buy into just anything. I have a general rule of thumb of I do not return vendors' phone calls. If I see something that I like, I will go out after it and find funding for it and find ways of getting it into the hands of our teachers. And CPS seemed to be something that I felt that teachers could use. It was simple, it was direct, it had some implementation pieces that were easy to do. Teachers use technology when they find it's going to make their job easier and it's proximate to them. And this is something that we can put into their hands, into a classroom pretty simply, and get some real results out of it. Given the high-stakes testing that's going on now in the state of New York, the Catholic schools in Brooklyn and Queens have bought into that and have chosen to give those tests. So we've used it in that sense as well to drill kids for the high-stakes testing in New York using the sample test that the state gives us. The teachers are funny. They love it. It's enjoyable to get small emails back. There was an email that I got yesterday that said that they had tried it in the third grade, presumably because there's third grade testing coming up for the state, and the kids decided in the third grade they didn't want to take tests any other way anymore, that this was too much fun. We've been looking at it we started with 20 schools, and I made the invitation to the schools in saying that I did not want this in the hands of just any teacher. I wanted it in the hands of a creative teacher that hates correcting objective tests, but also can take a system like CPS and use it as an instructional tool, not just a testing tool. And so we started with 20 teachers last July. We added it in another 20 classrooms in the fall, and another 20 classrooms just recently this spring, and we'll probably add another 20 in August this year and continue. So by the time we get to the fall of 2005, we'll have it in about 80 classrooms, probably in about 40 of our schools. One of the things that we've had our teachers do is take the high-stakes tests that have come from Albany and recreate them in CPS format by scanning in the graphics and using the questions directly from the state test that are not secure tests once they've been given, so that the kids have actual hands-on stuff in it. And then we've had the teachers connect them to the New York State standards. Standards are huge these days, and in the Catholic school system, we follow them as well. So more and more, as just a teaching tool, it's a great way to have teachers actually figure out, if I'm asking a question, then what state standard does it have to do with? Myself and the curriculum person here sat down one day, and the curriculum person was teaching a class that afternoon to teachers of reading. And she took an article out of the New York Times, and we were devising questions out of it based on the article for her to use in the teaching lesson. And we discovered fairly early on that most of the questions that we were writing were simple recall questions. And we stopped ourselves and went back and redid a lot of them to try to come up with some more analytical synthesis type questions, which is a little bit more challenging. When you're used to doing recall questions, it's simple to write them with, a stem and 4 possible answers. But when you're thinking about synthesis or analysis, it's a little bit more difficult to try to come up with questions. So we're planning on a workshop in the fall to focus on the 60 or so teachers that have the system just in the area of question writing. Anybody that has called the tech support number, if something were wrong, I certainly would have heard it, and I've heard nothing. And when we ask the question of people that have come back for follow-up sessions, it's always very positive. People like the way that the responses are delivered. It's not been spotty tech support where you get somebody that knows what they're talking about and then somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. They generally have had people that do know what they're talking about and understand education as well as the technology.